We're very pleased to have back in our studio my niece, who I'm very proud of, Miss Shedia Asiya Nelson, with us today. She is the dynamic, multi-talented author of more than 15 works spanning poetry, plays, children's literature, and youth-centered journals. Her work blends healing, literacy, cultural pride, and empowerment for young voices. Shadia, welcome back to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. Now, if you could, for our audience who did not see your first appearance or second appearance, could you share with a little bit about your education and background and how you got started into being a poet, a playwright, an author, etc.?
Okay, well, I'm Shedia Asiya Nelson. Shedia is an Egyptian name that means the singing one. So I sing through my poetry, my plays, and all my healing stories that I've published. So I do have a bachelor's degree from Hawaii Pacific University with a Bachelor of Arts in Communications with a concentration in theater. And so my writing journey started when I was in third grade, when I fell in love with words. And we had an opportunity to choose what elective in the elementary school. So it was listed on a little sheet of paper, like you can just check the box which one you wanted. So I chose poetry, and I was introduced to Shel Silverstein, and we had to memorize a poem. It's like, oh, this is so silly and fun. Doesn't have to be about the trees and the breeze and the leaves flowing through. I mean, that's beautiful, but it was a fun invitation into writing. And so then my mom, she introduced me to Eloise Greenfield. Then I learned Sonia Sanchez, who I got to meet when I was in high school. And I got to see her again in Miami at another amazing festival. I think it was called the Maroon Festival. I hope they bring that back. And those are the part. Oh, of course, Langston Hughes. Langston Hughes is an amazing Harlem Renaissance poet, playwright, and who also wrote prose, who I looked up to as like, ooh, I want to do that. You can write in different genres. Let me figure that out. So I started writing poetry in the third grade. And then I started to explore writing stage plays in high school. And I'm like, ooh, this is really cool. I'd love to see what this could look like on stage. My mom took me to a lot of theater. And then when I was in college, then I explored screenwriting. I said, ooh, this could be on film. How do you do that? So let me figure that out. And then later in life, I learned to write a novel, which was a journey, and how to write a novel. So learning how to write across different genres, I like to challenge myself to learn something new in the different arts that I like to write about. So I created 7 volumes of poetry, and that journey started in October 2023. I was like, I couldn't just publish one book at a time. I had to publish 6 books at the same time. I was on a mission, so I published my play series. She Kept Her Bra On, The Chronicles of a Teenage Love Affair. This is a three-part play series that started back in 2011. Yes. Woo. I wrote it, directed, played a cameo, and took it on tour across Miami-Dade County, Broward County, took it to universities, colleges, and I trained these amazing high school students. I work with an organization called Urgent Inc., based right in historic Overtown in Miami. And I introduced the world of theater to young people who'd never been on stage before. And then once I got them on stage, I couldn't get them off the stage. They fell in love with theater, and I was like, "Oh, this is awesome!" So I said, "We got to take this on tour." So I worked and developed an amazing cast of characters, and I worked with the majority of the same students over the course of 3 years. The fourth installment is we adapted to a live action short film produced with our face interns for the production crew. Now, the story behind the title, she kept her bra on. Well, I decided to take girls, our high school students, to a bra fitting field trip to Macy's. I thought I'd help them out. We get there, they tried on some bras. 2 weeks later, they would mail them out to them for free. One girl came wearing three bras at the same time and refused to take off that bra. She refused to take off her newfound confidence and the love in the skin she's in. She found one bra that did everything, that provided that support, that lift, and everything she needed to feel comfortable in her own skin. So it's like our philosophy of a good bra. When you find a good bra, like a good friend, you hold on to them. Think about the philosophy of a good bra. A good bra provides guidance, direction, support, and some lifts. So when you find a good bra, like a good friend, you hold on to them. So those are the chronicles of a teenage love affair. And now I have a toolkit that goes along with it for a curriculum. And now to continue the conversation with young people about teen dating violence awareness and how to build a healthy relationship starting with yourself first. I thought,
Such a fascinating play. And I like to know, when are you going to take it on the road? I mean, outside of Miami-Dade County.
I need funding. So I'm very open. Anywhere, any theater, that would be amazing. So I would love to pick it up and take it on tour. Matter of fact, I presented at the I'm the Boss of My Life conference, which promotes awareness for young people about financial literacy from entrepreneurship to getting your own business degree. And this is an opportunity for young people to explore self-confidence. So I presented on my workshop on how to build a healthy relationship, starting with yourself first.
Mhm.
The young people there responded so well that I had four students. They're like, "Sign me up. Let's get to rehearsal. I would love to be in the next production. Just let me know." I said, "Okay, well, let me get your information." So I already have young people ready to go. So I would love the opportunity to take it back on tour. I do miss directing the
You
young
do
people.
misdirecting, yes. So you've written and published these 15 books in such a short period of time. What sparked that creative explosion? Did your first poem at 16 set the foundation for this prolific journey? What was the impetus for it?
Yes, my first publication was at 16 by the National Library of Poetry in their poetry anthology called Whispers in the Wind. And since then, I was published 9 times by notable publishing companies as well. So mostly by National Library of Poetry, which included the International Library of Poetry, the International Who's Who in Poetry, the best poems of the 90s, best poems of 95. I have been writing and typing. Okay, so let me tell you. I had typed up all of my work from elementary to high school. So when I got to college, I had the 5 1/4 floppy disk of all of my work. I okay, there was no floppy disk readers at school. I ran over to Kinko's, back when it was a thing. And they just laughed at me. They're like,
What is this, right?
what am I supposed to do with that? I'm like, that's all my work, all my papers, everything. I had to retype everything,
Mm.
everything.
You know, Shadia, your uncle in California, I had a Xerox 820, which had a 5 1/4 floppy drive disk. That was what? 83. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So that was in 1996. And just laughed at me. And I was like, oh. So fortunately, I kept all of my journals, all my notebooks. One by one, I had to retype everything. I said,
Wow.
well, to store it. So what I've done, I've typed everything. And then I also printed what I typed. So I have hard copies in addition to the digital copies. And each time technology changes, whether it's the cloud, it's the hard square floppy, or then the CD, then the flash drive. Now it's the cloud. I haven't saved. It's an external hard drive. It's there. So I had all this content that I had to retype. And so I said, just to get it off the hard drive, let me just go ahead and publish everything. I felt this is a time in my life where I really wanted to share my work with the world. And I said, well, now they can see the different chapters of my life that represents in the different poetry volumes that I have.
And where can folks find you and your works to purchase?
Great question. So I do have a bookstore at the shop app at shopify.com. So you can find me at Shedia Asiya Nelson. That's ShediaAsiaNelson.myshopify.com.
Okay.
And I recently published my novel. It's a young adult novel available at Barnes and Noble. So you can request it at your local bookstore.
What is the title of the book of the novel and what is it about?
Oh, it's called In My Poetry.
Mhm.
This has been a work in the progress for a good 28 years in my poetry. So this one is a haunting and hopeful coming of age story that speaks to not only young people, teens, and adults. There, the young person explores what it's like to lose your voice, find your voice, and decide not to use your voice until you find it again. It's an interesting journey between a mother and a daughter over 3 generations. It's a combination of generational trauma, and the assets of the mom become the assets of the daughter that become the flaws and become weaponized against the daughter. So it is through her poetry that she finds her voice and her healing when she loses her parents.
Wow.
This story started when I was in high school, and when I was exploring writing different stage plays, it became a what if question. What if parents chose to take their lives? What happens to the young person, to their child? And so that's where the story started. So I explored the narrative and I wrote the stage play.
Mhm.
When I got to college, I had an amazing professor who saw the story as possible as a film. So it was only a screenwriting class. There was my professor, Mr. Mark Jarks, who believed in my storytelling. And he gave me a lot of coaching, a lot of support. So I was like, oh, okay, thank you. So then I crafted the screenplay. But before I adapted it to a screenplay, I decided as a theater major to choose one of the scenes to direct for my directing class. My director, Joyce Maltby at Hawaii Pacific University, she read it and she thought, ooh, this is too ambitious.
Oh.
So I was like, wow, this is my experience, my intro to theater, and I would love to see my work on stage. So I found 2 actors that didn't go to my school. One went to University of Hawaii, very talented young lady, and a friend of mine who had the characteristics that I was looking for the second character. So it's just two, husband and wife.
Mhm.
And they brought the story to life on a whole level where their creativity um, just was beautiful to see represented on stage, to see it is possible to believe in the work that I produced.
Mhm.
And then once I directed it, my director, Joyce Maltby, she was speechless. She had nothing to say. I got an A. And so I had a playwright read it after I finished college. And he was like, "Oh, this is an amazing, rich story. The depth of these characters, there's so much here. This could be a novel." I was like, "Oh, we'll figure out how to write a novel." And so I've been on the journey of writing a novel and figuring out, reading, exploring, okay, what's pacing, what's character timing, the development, how many pages, what does that look like, feel like? And from the perspective of working with young people, I was like, oh, I can add that nuance of my lived experience working with young people over the years that are unique
Right.
into this narrative. So it is definitely happy to give birth to um, my first young adult novel in my poetry. It's a true treat and it's very healing and it speaks to mothers in a sense of acknowledging the real impact of postpartum depression.
Mm.
It also speaks to different health conditions that could happen as a young person who experiences a young birth.
Right.
And it also speaks to a village of support when that is supported by her best friend and the best friend's mom. She's a midwife. So it's a circle of sisterhood and finding love for herself again. So it's a beautiful journey to read. I think it's a good fit for both teens and adults.
In my research of your work, you talk about your brand is the art of healing writing. It emphasizes, of course, the link between creativity and self-discovery. How has writing shaped your own personal healing and growth? And what do you hope your books play in helping others to heal, to find their voice, and affirm their identities?
Yeah, there's a different chapter for different healing parts of myself over the years. And I find writing has been so restorative.
Mm.
Uh, and then it helps me to go back and reread what I wrote. I'm like, wait, I'm going through something similar. Let me go back and read and get some more motivation. What did I say about this? Let me go back and remind myself of what I said. And I'm like, oh, this is great. I need to read this again. I think it's as an artist, it's there is a lens of opportunity to explore and share. The more I'm out in the community and I'm doing different events where I'm vending with my books, I'm learning about other people's stories. And the cool thing, I love to see that there's a variety of books that speak to different people for different reasons, right? I have children's books, I have curriculums, I have plays, I have poetry, I have essays, I have short stories. And so when I share a little backstory of the different works that I have, then it reaches and connects to that person differently. So, for example, my book called Moments of Healing, this was a collection of poetry that I dedicate to my father, which has been a very healing journey in itself. We hadn't had the closest relationship. When I was younger, we were closer, and I put him on a pedestal, like he was the best
Mm.
ever as a father. And then looking back and thinking about all the wonderful little teachable moments that I learned, and one of the last essays that he wrote was recovered. My sister gave it to me to help me in my healing. One of the last sentences of the essay where he was learning to be a better me. And that really resonated. And it helped answer that question of why. Sometimes we don't always know why people do what they do. And sometimes people are just doing the best they can with who they are and what tools they have, and accept them from where they're at. And so I take that tool as part of my own healing. And I drew a picture of him, a portrait, his last photo,
Okay.
um, to commemorate that memory. And so when I share these like little stories behind the different books that I have, And then people gravitate like, oh, I just lost my father, or I know someone who just lost a loved one. This will be perfect right on time. And then they buy the book, they walk away, they come back and they're like, oh, how did you know? Thank you. Or with the play series, the same thing with the kids. They're like, this character is me. How did you know? You wrote this for me. So each book they tell stories and it's so I don't know what the word is. Uh Impactful, it's meaningful, it's meeting people at different connections at different points in their lives. So different books connect with people, whether they need love stories. So I have 3 volumes of love poems. And the love poems, it's not only about romantic relationships, like In My Feelings, My Heart Sings, and love letters. Some of the love letters are to my daughter, to myself, falling in love with myself again, when there's been a lot of healing challenges in my life. And I thought, let me just write. And then through the process of writing and releasing, and then I'm coming back into like, oh, let me keep this love cycle on repeat.
Right. There you you write for children's, teens, and adults. How do you adapt your voice for such a diverse audiences while keeping it authentically yours?
Well, the poetry is works that I've written over the years, and the poetry is more for, I would say, high school and adults. So that's where that audience is drawn in. And I do introduce young people to poetry that I work with at Urgening. And through also book clubs, I find creating workshops about self-love and writing a love letter to yourself. These aren't opportunities where I think some people think about, like, oh, a love letter to myself? What is that about? Or forgiveness letter. That's powerful. So it's using my books as tools to help everybody heal through the art of healing. The curriculums, since I work with young people, so I was looking for tools to help support the work that I do for youth development, for creative youth development, for project-based learning, and I wasn't finding a great go-to. Like, where's a book talking about trauma and healing and love and real talk that connects culturally to young people? I didn't find anything. So I published my young adult novel. I need plays, a dialogue to connect with young people about teen dating in a realistic way that sounds like young people because it is. I co-wrote it with my high school students about their experiences. So it was based on our conversations in our after school program. So that's why it's still relatable as it was back then as it is today. Um, and the young people, the K to 5, oh, I love my little people. They're so funny. I needed another tool. There's a lot of books about loving yourself and loving your hair and your culture, but there wasn't one that spoke to feeling different that I found that spoke to the kids. And it's a nice, readable, out loud book called Little Squirrel that I wrote and illustrated, my first children's picture book. I'm so excited. That also doubles as a coloring book and letterprint and cursive practice since cursive is not taught in school.
Yeah, what's up with that? Yeah.
I don't get it. I was talking to my kids and they were watching me writing cursive and they're like, "Ooh, what's that?" I was like, "Oh, let me write a book. We need to use this every day." So I have an alphabet book called Read With Me from A to Z, a coloring and activity book for letterprint and cursive practice. I added the letterprint and cursive practice with Little Squirrel. So I'm keeping the theme of letterprint and cursive practice. And so they get to practice, they get to write in a book. Because I remember when I was learning cursive, well, actually before I started learning, I saw my brothers and sisters, they were practicing in books that you weren't really supposed to be writing all in. But I don't know, there were some random books. We were writing, and I just knew I was writing cursive. I did all the swirls and,
Mm.
and the doodling. I was not writing cursive, but I was telling myself that's what I was doing. And then when I actually learned, I was like, ooh, now I'm official. You know, I felt grown. It was like a club where you could write cursive. It was really cool. And then I have 5-year-olds writing in cursive very well and picking up really quickly. It's like, ooh, let's work on our letters and let's writing our full names in cursive.
Let me ask you this question. You have tremendous knowledge and you have a tremendous way of sharing your heartfelt experiences for people to benefit from. When are you going to have a lecture series to
Ooh.
lecture across the world? Not Dade County, not the state of Miami. I'm talking about the world because as your uncle, I've known you since you were born. But you know, um, you've grown up to a beautiful woman, raised a daughter, and I'm learning so much more about you and how you have grown. And it makes me very proud, so proud to be your uncle. And I'm saying she's got to share this with the world. So, what are your thoughts about that?
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I have thought about it and I've been researching how best to go about creating a tour and a lecture series. So I thought maybe looking into a university track, especially for my curriculums and for well, really all my work.
Yeah,
Because there's child development in universities. So my books fit in all the categories for universities. So I thought that could be a great route. Um, and seeing where else would be a best fit. I looked into book festivals. Um, and I find as an entrepreneur and independently published authors, I'm learning a lot about the publishing industry, and it's divisive in a way of if you're independently published versus a big publisher, the advantages and the disadvantages, and what you can leverage as one published independently and one it's a limited advantage and there's no guaranteed book tour. So if I were to be published with a big publisher, there's no guarantee. And then they own the control of your book, what it looks like, who does do all the editing. You can have a beautiful manuscript, and they'll rewrite the whole thing and like, oh, this needs a rewrite on this, and then change the narrative. And
yeah,
that's not the creative control or direction. And then you don't make any money. So, and then I learned that you have to pay that advance back. So it's like a loan. I was like, wait a minute, that's not helpful.
right, right.
So how do I create a track where I can be successful and share this work and the volumes of work that I have on a greater scale? Um, I'm
Yeah.
researching, so I've been looking on how I can build that out intentionally. Different bookstore chains like Books and Books, they support local authors, different libraries, what institutions or um, summits, conferences that would be a better B2B model to get it out to a wider audience and get it in the hands of young people is where I really need it to be.
Dottie, believe it or not, we are out of time. Time flies when you're having fun.
That was it.
That's it. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with Miss Shedia Asiya Nelson. Shedia, where can they find you?
You can find me on all social media platforms. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and LinkedIn and Pinterest.
Oh,
I'm there as well. And my bookstore is available at shopify.com. You can just put in my name, Shedia Asiya Nelson, or you can visit my store directly at shadiaasiyanelson.myshopify.com.
that says it all. I want to thank our guest, Ms. Shedia Asiya Nelson, coming on the program. If you've missed any of this show, believe you can catch it on the podcast. It will broadcast on WSOU 89.5 FM in the very near future. You can also catch it on YouTube. This is Darrell Gunter. I'm your host for leadership, but remember, leadership begins with you.